You'll notice this piece of wood, it's just plain Jane. It has no character to it whatsoever. I mean, it's got a little bit of grain, but it has no character, nothing. So I needed to highlight it somehow, shape, or form. And basically what I've done is I've cut the side out of it. These are all just little pieces of wood. Some of them are cactus. Can you see that? I'll set it down. This piece here is a piece of cholla cactus. Piece across here is saguaro cactus. A lot of these pieces, I don't have a clue what they are. Like I said, I'll show you how I did it. This is the bottom. I'll show you how I did it. So, and I ended up beads of courage bowl. That's not what I was going to start out with. That's where I ended. The piece of wood I wanted to use was down in the back of my property. Okay, as I said, what I was after was a piece of wood about 12 inches or so in diameter and about 6 inches deep with no character to it. And what I was going to do, or plan to do, as I did on this side a little better, was to cut the side out of it and highlight it as I did, or whatever you want to call this. But the piece of wood I had back there, been laying back there for like 4 or 5 years. It was either sycamore, cottonwood, or whatever the landscapers gave it to me. But when I got it up to the house, chopped it up, put it on the machine, got it turned rough, and looked at it, and I'm like, I can't cut the side out of this. It had spalted, it had colors, it's got stuff through it. So I'm like, the R&D department came out and looked at it and said, you're not cutting that up. So I ended up with this. You can see it's just a plain Jane piece of wood. There's no character in it. There's no nothing. It needed something. Next one. Inside, nothing. No knots, no burls, no spots. I couldn't live with it. Okay, here's where we start. I cut the side out of it, or I marked it. Nothing fancy, just took a pencil. It took me 3 or 4 times to come up with what I wanted. Don't take the cut all the way to the bottom. Leave it up off the bottom a little bit. And you can see I got my little jigsaw, got the thing out. And when I cut my first piece out, turn it around, put the piece back on it, mark it out. But to make sure it was straight across, I made sure my marks are straight across. But I marked it out that way. But to do it, I had cut one section off. I marked the other side, and I put my marks on there and measured straight across the top. And I got it within government work. That way it's basically straight across from each other. Now I've got it cut out, took a piece of sandpaper, sanded the rough part on the inside. There's my jigsaw, I cut it out, kind of sanded the edges around so I don't have any rough edges showing. Oh, that's where I marked it on the other side. Now, there's my sticks. They're plain Jane, nothing fancy. Some of them are cactus, whatever I could find. This is a piece of cholla. Piece of cholla cactus, piece of cholla cactus. That's the piece of saguaro cactus. I cut them to where I had left the thickness at about 5/8 of an inch. So I cut these off at about 5/8 of an inch. Nothing fancy. And you can see they're different sizes because you'll need different sizes to put it together. Now, I don't know if you can see those pieces laying on there. Those are little bitty squares cut off from a stir stick. Plain Jane stir stick that you get from any place you get coffee. I buy these things by the gross. I use them up big time. This is what I use to mix my epoxy with. I just use them for everything. Okay, now, how did I do this? As I was explaining to a couple of gentlemen, I like to use, I call it heavy paper. Some of you may call it light cardboard, whatever it is. I'll show you a couple other instances where I use it. What I did was I laid it right down along the edge on the inside. Can you see that? Works real snug. Now, since this was supposed to be the final, and that piece going around was going to be my show piece to put this together. Since that went to pot, I'm going to take, since I didn't have another one, I'm going to put it together on a piece like this. I take a glue gun, go just off the edge of the cut. The reason I'm doing that, I'll show you. Now we're getting there. I coated one side of this paper. You'll see that it's coated. You put the coated side, the one you're going to use, and you put it right on there.
Gene coated with what?
Plain old everyday lacquer, something of that nature.
Okay.
Now, the reason I put the hot glue just a hair below that, and then you mash it, that way your hot glue doesn't come up inside your, where you're going to pour. It's down below that. You don't want it up in your cut or up in here. And if you do that, just take your handy dandy knife and just real carefully cut it out. Because you don't want that in your, in your pour. You want to have this clean. Now you've got that set. Now, what I did was I didn't want the piece of wood. And if you notice on that one I just passed around on one side, you'll notice the very bottom one, I put the little cut piece too close to the outside and it showed up. So just a touch and put it right smack dab in your finger. See where it's at? Now, because you did use cardboard or heavy paper or whatever, you can take a small amount, put on the back side, lay it up on there, and stick it on there. Now all you do is to go around, and I won't sit here and take up the time of putting a little piece on here, a little piece on there, but all you do is just start stacking. Put the cholla cactus in there, you put pieces in there, you put little pieces on it, you just keep stacking. I mean, just no rhyme and reason. But you want to be able to have the resin, room for the resin to go down in everything. You'll notice on those, or that piece I passed around, it went down in there really nice and slick. There you go. Nothing to it. Now, if they'll sit there, you've got it all on there. What do I do on the other side? I've got the outside. Now you could take another piece of cardboard and throw around, whoops, the back side. But here was my issue. Because now on this, when I cut these, I had cut them to put on here. This was just a piece I picked up to cut. So these pieces were smaller. When I put them on my piece I was going to turn, they were sticking out just a little bit. So I couldn't take a piece of cardboard and put on the outside. So what do?
Gene, I have a question.
Okay.
What would happen if you did not put those spacers in between there?
You would have, not really, I just wanted resin between the pieces. They would just stick together.
Oh.
They would just sit down against each other. I wanted a little bit of resin between them.
Yeah, also they wouldn't be glued in, they'd be loose.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but if you take like on the cardboard and put a little bit of glue on the back side and stick them on there, they're there. But here's the kicker, the whole kicker. When you mix up resin and you pour it, it creates heat. Now, I've been told by a few people how much heat it creates. Now, have I seen it in a publication? I did have one somewhere. Oh, in a publication? No, I haven't seen it. So do I know? But I do know that when you pour it and you put your hands on it, you can feel the heat. And another factor, as I learned the hard way, it will soften the hot glue. So, and that's another reason to put the glue kind of away where the resin's not going to touch it.
So could you, as opposed to the little chips, the coffee stir things, use little remnants of other wood?
You could do whatever you wanted.
Little smaller pieces? Yeah, okay.
You could do whatever you wanted to. It's
Yeah.
just that I have a gross of these things.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
like I said, I use them when I'm mixing up a small batch of epoxy. My neighbor who passed away, and I don't know what I'm going to do now, he drank a certain ale or whatever it was. It was terrible. Anyway, he saved his bottle caps. And I take a bottle cap, mix my epoxy, take these things. In fact, you can see on the end of it. There it is. And mix it up. When I use the bottle cap a time or two, in the trash it goes. And then I just keep cutting these off until they get too short, and there they
Okay,
go.
thank you.
Gene, I think we have an expert in the room who could tell you about the temperature that resin's going to get to. Jay, do you have a number that you've worked with resins a lot?
Yeah, so resin's curing process is exothermic, meaning it gives off heat. The larger the quantity of resin, the greater the heat. So if you're pouring like a gallon, it's going to get pretty hot, and it's going to give off heat to the point of 140, 150 degrees. If you're doing small quantities, it won't get as hot. But to Gene's point, looking what he's doing, there's probably a couple ounces, which means it's going to get up to about 120 degrees or so, plus or minus. There's a way, if you're pouring resin and you're concerned about the heat, there's a way to avoid the potential leak through with the heat, and that's to use a different type of resin, like a tabletop resin. Something that takes longer to cure will have a lower heat threshold. So you can use tabletop that takes 8 to 10 hours to cure, and you're never going to have a problem with heat melting any glue or anything like that. If you're using a Lumelite, that's a 7-minute cure, and you're using a volume, it's going to get hot, and it's going to get hot fast.
Thank you, Jay.
Out of curiosity, when I had poured this bowl, or maybe it was this one, I don't remember which one it was. I took a regular old, I didn't have a nice thermometer. I used to have a heat gun or a heat one. And I put it up against there, and I come up with 118 degrees, give or take a little bit. So what Jay is saying is right in the ballpark. But I was taking the temperature through a piece of plastic and some duct tape. So I was losing maybe a little bit, and I was pouring, well, you can see this was about 5/8, 3/4 of an inch thick. So you can go from there. And if you take 120 degrees, it's going to soften this. So I'll probably knock that off in a minute. So anyway. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Not that I would do that. Okay, so I've got the outside, and like I said, when I did these two pieces, the pieces of wood were sticking out just a hair, maybe about 1/8 of an inch, give or take a little bit. So putting a piece of cardboard on the front side was out of the question. So again, when they worked on the house, they left me about 3/4 of a row of, I guess you call it, really, really heavy plastic. And I think I've got a piece here. You can take this heavy plastic and you can see it may warp a little bit, but it doesn't put a hole in it. Can you see that? Now, this is a plain old everyday trash bag. Don't do it. Ouch, that's hot. See? Don't use a trash bag because you're going to run, I mean, you're going to have problems. So don't do it. So again, right over past the cut, run a bead of hot glue. Hold it straight best you can. Run it out. Make sure you run as much of it as you can. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but you can see the darkness. No spots in it. Nowhere. Let it set for just a second. Go just below the hot glue. Now you've made a good, nice seal. The resin won't really be touching that hot glue. However, just to make sure things work, and I think I've got a picture of that too. Whatever, we don't really need it in a way. Take a piece, lay it just about 50-50 over it. Now here's something I learned. Take your glue gun. Don't mash the glue into it, but if you take and go real carefully, if you hold it in too long, you're going to melt the duct tape. But if you go along and just kind of go along the edge of it, you'll put just enough heat on that duct tape, it'll seal it. If you do that to it right there, and you don't have a crack in the wood, the resin will hold. Now, what did I do to the backside? I would do the same thing. I would take a piece of duct tape. You can make it more positive if you really, well, I'm gonna mess that bag up. You could go right along the very edge and put a real light coating of hot glue on there. But all I did was take and run my fingernail along the edge of where that was at. And again, I took the glue gun and just real lightly, and any spots I seen, you don't want to let that glue gun set on that duct tape very long. If you do, you'll melt a hole in it.
How you know that?
Huh?
We won't ask how you know that.
Like I said, if there's anything that's happened wrong, I'm way ahead of you.
I'm not an expert with the glue gun because I have a lot of problems with it, but are you using regular glue, hot glue, or are
Yeah.
you usually using the industrial strength hot glue?
No, just plain old everyday, simple hot glue that you pick up at the store. Nothing. I know that you can get the better, but I picked up a whole box of it for like almost nothing. And I still got a half a box left, so.
Okay, the second part is what my problem when I'm using hot glue is from the time I put that line across from one side to the other side, the one side's already dried. So does anybody else have a problem with that?
I took and bought, I had the same issue like you did. I had an old glue gun and it wasn't, how do I say this? Wasn't creating enough heat. It wasn't hot enough. So I ordered this. I don't know if this is better, but it's hot. I mean, it's hot. I don't know how to tell you the difference between one or the other, but I picked this one up on eBay or not eBay, Amazon for like $10. I don't know if it's probably made in you know where, but it's hot. That's all I can tell you. And I'm really pleased with it. That's that little problem I had just a minute ago is the first time I ever had a problem with it. I mean, and the glue stays good and hot, but I will say this for it, it takes it a while to heat up. Now, the other one I had heated up quicker, but like, it was like what you said, you put something across it and the other end, that end's already cooled off. Yes.
Gene, two things. The hot glue guns come in both high and low temperature. And if you're using a low temperature, your typical craft grade of sticks, which it sounds like you have, that melting temperature is between 200 and 250 degrees. If you have a high temperature stick, it's between 375 and 450.
Ooh.
And some of your industrial or commercial grade is even higher. So that it will hold up longer from that aspect.
Well, the old glue gun I had was my dad's. And I mean, it was probably brought over on the Mayflower, you know, so it wasn't very good. But he had had it for years and years and years, and I got it. And I liked it because it was one of those great big ones. And it worked, I thought, pretty nice. But I had the same issue the Bear had. But I wasn't doing this kind of stuff then. And I'm like, well, I still got it. I needed something hotter. And I went online and bought that. So I don't know if this is just a regular one that just happened to be better and normal, but like I said, it's hot. So I don't know how much heat it's supposed to produce. I never checked. It wasn't in the instructions. If it was in Japanese, but.
Yeah, Gene, I bought one, looks an awful lot like yours from Amazon. It has the switch settings on it. One's labeled 60 watts, the other's labeled 100 watts. I was just using it yesterday, and that 100 watt setting really liquefies the hot melt glue, and it stays liquid a long time.
Well, this one is a 50 to 60 hertz.
No, I'm talking watts of.
Well,
yeah.
You know, we're talking, who knows where this come from?
Yeah.
I mean, why do they put hertz on it? I mean, this thing's not making noise.
No, so, you work in Europe or the United States.
I know.
That's-
Yeah. Japan, 50.
Okay, this thing says 100 watts.
Okay,
So it's a high.
yeah.
I didn't read all the fine print.
So I guess if you're shopping for one on Amazon, look for one that says 100 watts or has
Yeah.
a setting that you can use 100 watts. And I don't think you're going to have problems with your hot melt, with your adhesive cooling on you before you get to it.
Yeah, like
Thanks.
I said, it takes it a while to get hot. But once it gets hot, it goes right on, it just goes right through it. And like I said, the glue I've got, they're just, I got maybe still a half a box. There was probably a gross of them in there when whoever it was bought them. And I've still got maybe a half of them left. So I'm using them up. Maybe when I run out of them, I'll buy the hotter, the better kind, I guess I should say.
Yeah, Gene, just a suggestion. I know I've run long strings of hot glue. What I've done to keep it molten is to use a hot heat gun. If you use a heat gun and just follow it just to keep it a little molten until you can get everything lined up and press it in, it seems to work well. And that way I've never had the issue. Once I figured that out, I never had the issue with glue solidifying before it was able to adhere to whatever I wanted to use it on. Also, some of you might be aware of this. There's a YouTube channel called Project Farm. And this guy does nothing but test products. One of the things I saw he tested was hot glue. And he took about 6 or 7 different brands and did the same tests for every one of them. Very interesting results. So if you want to take a look at that, Project Farm on YouTube.
Gene, I have a question for you too. You used cardboard on one side of your mold, but you used plastic on the other. Could you use cardboard on both sides?
You could have used plastic on both sides. That's not a deal.
Could you use
The reason-
cardboard on both sides?
The reason I didn't use cardboard on the outside is because the pieces, the sticks were sticking out.
Okay, so you're taking advantage of the flexibility of the plastic on that
Yes.
side. Thank you.
The sticks were sticking out. I don't know if that'll show up. The sticks were sticking out about that much. Does that show up?
Yes.
Okay, they were sticking out about that far. So if I had used hold still. If I had used a piece of cardboard, I would have had this gap. Whereas in using the plastic, I could pull it tight on one side and pull it tight on the other, and it would still adhere down. All right, you can see here, this is where I put my piece of cardboard in, and I've got it glued on the inside. Okay. Now I put some duct tape on the inside, just like I did what I did. Put it a little heavy though. But anyway, because if you'll notice, this has got some cracks in it. So if the resin can find a crack, it's coming out. And it did do it. Okay. You can see this is where I had it. Oh, I kind of put it like that so that I could set my pieces in as I could work. Okay. There you go. If you notice real carefully, you can see one right there. See the end of one of those little pieces? Right there. You notice there's a little bit of gap. Oh, you can't see that one. There's little gaps between a piece of the stir stick that I had put in here. You can see it between two of the pieces. I tried to hide as much of them as I could. But every once in a while, and like I said, you can see in that piece there, right on the very bottom. I got it too far to the outside. Well, here's the little pieces, and there's my little pieces of stir stick and my hose, gross. And this is a piece of cholla cactus. So I tried to use some cactus. It kind of really makes it look nice. The resin into it. Okay. Okay, you can see this is the outside. And just like this is where you're coming. See how this is where it's sticking out? If I had used cardboard, I would have had this gap that I would have been trying to fill. So here I could do it with a piece of plastic and it kind of stretched real good. Okay. And you can see I cut just past where I had run my glue gun. Cut off the excess. And there's where I put my duct tape up the sides of it. I told you there was a crack. The resin came through it. Not a whole lot, but just so little bit of it. If it can find a spot, it will find a spot. Here I poured all of it. I knew that crack was there. So I poured just probably a Coke. I think I mixed up a Coke bottle cap, just enough to pour in there to get it to seal. Now I've got it poured, went in, took all of it out. You can see the pieces in there. You can see that little bit of a hump. That's the other side. Now I've got it turned, partly turned, kind of roughed. Now comes the challenge. The outside is easy. That's the other side. You can see the cholla cactus. I really like that. Here's the inside. I didn't take a picture, but it had that cardboard. And of course, you can't get it to come out. And no tool I found seemed to cut through that cardboard. It just wads up.
Gene, I think you just let it air cure. Did you try a pressure pot?
I don't have a pressure pot.
Okay.
Everything I do is air cool.
Just air,
Yeah.
let it air cure. Did you have any problems with bubbles?
I said I used this plastic. Okay. Think about this. I've got this plastic on there. Yeah, I've got air bubbles. The inside's not moving. It's cardboard. Okay, the outside is plastic. Now I've got 120 degrees in there, give or take a degree. This plastic is a little pliable. I took my fingers and sat there and just kind of massaged it. You'll notice no bubbles.
Mike Mitchell online wants to know if the plastic is like 10 millimeter visqueen. That was his question.
I would say it's industrial. It's industrial grade. Now it's pretty thick. Now exactly what grade it is or how thick it is, I didn't have the piece on the outside. They used this when they had to take all the insulation down, and then they put it up before they put the insulation back in the top, and then put drywall back to it. And it had to be heavy enough to hold the insulation up. I mean, you can see this is pretty heavy stuff. Pass it around. I mean, I got like a roll that big.
Okay, Gene, my question is, what do you use to color?
I'll get that just in a second.
Okay, fine.
Right there it is. Well, we might as well just do that now. For a long time, I've been going like probably some of you have down to True Value and take a little bottle. You walk in there and you can buy for a couple bucks, $3 or $4, whatever it was. And you get tinning that they use to mix paint with. However, not that I've ever done this. No. If you mix a little bit too much in your epoxy or your resin mix up, in other words, if you go get the clear and you mix it up in there, if you mix a little bit too much of that in there, it will not dry. It won't. I mean, it stays pliable until the cows come home, period. Now, I've been wanting to play with colors, and I was headed to True Value, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I talked to a couple of people, and they said, go to there and go buy this and go buy that. And okay, I went and read about it. And I wasn't sold on it, sorry. So I went online. Can anybody read that? It says mica powder. I ordered a box of this stuff and it came in 20 different colors. You'll notice that the jar is really, really small. It says 32 milliliters. You use very, very, very little of it. It goes a long, long way. And you mix it and it doesn't change viscosity of the resin or your epoxy. Because it's something just like if you took sawdust and mixed it with your epoxy, that's what this is doing. Because it's just a powder. It's not a dye. It's a powder.
But Gene, interject here. I think one of the reasons the reason you did not have success when you're using the tinting from the True Value people is that's made to go into latex paint.
Yeah.
If you read the instruction sheet for Alumilite, for example, they caution against that. They say, do not use water-based dyes. You need to use something that has a methanol base to it. And that Alumilite well, of course, they'll sell you the dyes to do that, but of course you can get them from Craft Supply and other people. But if you're going to use dyes instead of your mica powder, be sure it's actually made for epoxy resins. I'd be very suspicious about that latex tinting. I think the reason you had a failure was you had water in your epoxy, and that came from your tint.
Well, like I said, I'd used it for a long time, but I know if I mixed too much of it with it, it stayed pliable. So I was like, I had to go to plan B somewhere. And I looked and I looked and looked and read and looked and read. And I found this mica powder and it had good things to say about it. I ordered it. I've used I think 3 different colors, and I have been just totally pleased with it. Now, day before yesterday, I was looking at a magazine and I seen this article. I'll pass it around. It's basically, I think it's epoxy. No, it's a resin that comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors besides clear. Already there. Now, have I tried it? No. I think I'm going to order as they call it, charcoal, but I haven't, like I said, I just got it a couple of days ago. So I threw it in. Something to look at, something to think about. I know that you can get CA glue in black because I use it quite a bit. Yeah, you can get the CA glue in black and I use it quite a bit, but I think I will order the charcoal in that. Okay, now here I'd made the bowl and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do for a lid? So I had used sticks to put in the side. So why don't I make a bowl lid out of sticks? You'll see this is a piece of cholla cactus. This piece right here is a piece of saguaro cactus. Don't ask me what the rest is, they're sticks. Just happen to be in the way. This is my backup piece, or back plate, or whatever you wish to call it. This is the one I had. This is the one I used to make that top with. You'll notice, see how I'm using that hard paper again? When I got it all done, the resin's poured. The resin will go through this paper if you don't coat it. Here's one I've coated. All it is urethane. One good coat on it, let it dry, then lacquer, urethane, whichever one you want to use. I picked up a piece of a can of urethane at a yard sale that it was all hard on top. I just poke a hole through the top of it and pour some out and spread it out and it's done. There's what we started with. Here again, cholla cactus. I think that's a piece of cottonwood. Kind of looks like a piece of cottonwood. That's a piece of, yeah. And that's a piece of something. This is a piece of saguaro. So basically, all I did was start with my piece. I sanded down one side just to make it flat. Took a little bit of glue, put across it, stuck it on there so it'd stick. Don't ask me which one I use next. I don't know. What I like, these old pieces, they've got some nice coloring in them. They really do. Put it on there. Do the same thing. Put it on there. Put it on there. Put it on there. Put it on there. This is saguaro cactus. And just keep building it out. But all I did was just take a bunch of sticks, stuck them together. I will admit, here's the one I finished. If you turn it over, here's a piece of saguaro cactus. I didn't get this piece of saguaro cactus, and you can just barely see this one. I should have had them up a little high, especially this one, but it looks okay. I mean, well, I know it didn't, I know it was wrong, but like in this right here, that's a piece of cholla cactus. That's what this is right here. And I'm sorry, I really like that. That really made it look nice. That really made it look nice. And with the grains and everything, I don't know. I thought it looked nice. R&D department liked it. So, okay, here's what I started with here with that. Just like I told you, I put a coating on it, glued them on there. Okay, next one. Here it is, putting it together. Still got a couple of little gaps. I tried to fill them as best as I could. You'll notice that they're sticking over on the sides, this and that and whatever. Okay. Now I've got it done. And they're glued down. Not real heavy, but just glued down. Now what I did was I took them after that set for quite a while, took it back to the bandsaw, cut right along the edge. That way all the ends were flush with the edge of my block. No, that was after I cut it. Okay, now I've taken a piece of plastic. Let's say that this was all coated with my pieces and so on and so forth. I take the hot glue gun, go right along the edge of where the paper and the wood backing is. Again, take my plastic, run right along the edge, put it down, put it all the way around, mashing it good and flat, so on and so forth, all the way across, all the way around. I get it all the way around it. I go past where it is. I come back and I put a layer of glue up the run, mash that flat, go a little further, mash another one flat, cut my excess off. Now I've got a roll of plastic all the way around it. Take a roll of duct tape. Start it so that about half the duct tape is on here and half of it is down below it. So when I get all the way around, I roll the duct tape down on the bottom. Then I took another piece and went across around the top, laid it down. It was ready to pour. You'll see that I've got you can see the plastic and you can see a roll of duct tape around it. Okay, next picture. See how I wrap the duct tape? Yeah, wrap the duct tape up underneath along the edges. And again, I had taken the heat gun and go along any kind of wrinkles or anything and kind of rubbed them out. This didn't come out very good, but you can see how this kind of looks. That's where I had taken the heat gun and went over it, and it kind of wrinkled the duct tape. I poured it, not one leak. It's all done, dried. Keep going. Now it's on the machine. Next one. Take off as much of it as you can. Okay. Then I started turning it. And what I did was I put a hole in it so that I could put it on the chuck so I could do the top. And then I used the hole when I built my little knob. I left a piece and then I put it through the hole. Okay. You can see this is what I like about using that paper. It'll just split right in two. I mean, it just tears right in half. I love this stuff. You can see right here with where my chisel mark was when I headed into it, and it just split right in half. I finished off the top a little bit. I put it on the chuck with however, guess what? The screw stuck through all the way. So I had to take and put a spacer, which I think is shown on the next one. Turned it, got it all done. Yeah, there's my spacer I put in there. So I stuck it out there a little ways. Finished it all up. I sanded this all down to 1,000 grit. Well, if you use anything more coarse, it'll leave lines in that resin. Okay. Inside, like I said, this is a pretty bad piece of wood for show and tell. You can see my screw marks in the bottom, but that's the piece of wood I had. Sorry, I apologized. Okay. Now that's the piece I made, the little knobby piece on the top. Don't ask me what it was. It was in the way at the wrong time. And turned it. I had my hole in the top. I made a little spindle on it when I turned it. Okay. See the little spindle I left on it? Glued it, stuck it in there. Made the hole in the very top for the beads of courage bead. Glued it all together. Okay. That's it in a nutshell.
I've tried a little bit of epoxy or a resin, and I've struggled with getting the neat shine. You mentioned you go to 1,000 grit. I'm curious if there's other avenues that maybe some of the others have come up to of wet sanding, a lubricant with it. If there's something that brings out those little hairline, and the pours that I've done have been on a flat surface, so it's a direct reflection back. I'm just curious if there's any super secrets.
I tried the little wet sanding trick, and the piece of wood I tried it on, it's not these, but another piece that I had done that on, and I ruined the wood. I had to let it dry for like 2 weeks before it. Yeah, no, that, and on something like this that's got quite a bit of resin in it, like where it's got quite a bit of resin showing, I just worked my way up, and I ended up with 1,000. And usually when you get up past 600, you're only on there for just you're just more or less finessing it. I mean, you're just hitting it and that's it. Yeah, there you go. You're basically polishing it. That's all you're doing. You don't have to be on there, but just a little bit.
Yeah, Gene, one of the things I was going to say if it was just resin or an acrylic, like when I do the pins, wet sanding's fine, but
Yeah.
you put it on the wood, you're in trouble.
Yeah, Gene, Beal works great.
Yeah.
Great. I love it. The three-wheel system works great. There's another system called Novus, Novus, that is 3 different bottles of like a paste that you go through all 3, 1, 2, and 3, and that works good too. But the Beal system, if you use it right, it works great. And I'll take what you don't want.
Huh? I'll be truthful with you. I've done some where I've done just plain bowls. And I've shined them up and they look pretty good. But you take, I don't know if it's because like my pieces and parts bowls where they're softwood, hardwood, and in between woods and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if that plays into it. I don't know that. Whereas I took a walnut bowl and I made it shine like it was a silver dollar. It worked fine. But on some of the other pieces, and it may be because I use all these different ones and maybe the heat it creates works different, but I haven't mastered it. This is what I had to start with this time. Okay, go to the next one. I chopped up a lot of pieces. Here's my waste blocks I had to start with, 2x6. And I'll explain those in just a minute. Okay. We'll stop right there. You'll see that I took one of the waste blocks, drilled a hole in the center of it. After the first one, or when I was doing the first one, when you're doing a piece of segmental on your machine, you kind of got a guide where the next row goes. When you put a row of those on there, first row you can kind of visualize. You go on to put the second row on there. The pieces aren't round, they're not square, they're everything. And the first thing you know, you're gone off to one side. This piece is not in there far enough. This is way out there. You don't have anything to guide you with. That was what happened to the first one I built. I was going all over the place. Luckily, it worked out. So I came up with a very ingenious, I ought to patent this. I took my waste block. You can see that? Okay. Drilled a hole in it. This here is nothing but a piece of wire out of a coat hanger. Goes down in it. Okay, this is nothing but the end off of square. But I needed something pretty small. I needed that to be pretty well plumb or perpendicular to that. First off, I made kind of a layout. This is what I'm going to do. This gives me my steps going up, how far out it's going to be, so on and so on and so forth. So I knew what my diameter, my outside diameter was going to be, or about where my diameter is going to be. Nothing fancy. Got myself some pieces of paper. I take the first row. I put it on there. Have a hole in the center of the paper. You lay it down on there. Now you see right there, this piece is sticking way out. These two pieces are sticking way in, and this one's sticking out, and this one here is just about right. So you kind of move all of them around to where they're kind of all in about the same spot. Simple. Take your handy dandy glue. Lift this off. You can take a pencil mark and mark them if you want to or whatever. Put some glue on them, stick them back down. Now you're ready for the next one. See what I mean? So now all you do is just kind of, whoops, wrong one. Massage these out a little bit to where they're all just about the right distance. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but that's what I've done. I've stepped them out. And you just keep going. Now, the first two I made, I only made them like 6 inches high. They weren't quite 6 inches total. That's probably where I screwed up on this one. But you just keep stacking them up, gluing them down, stacking it up, gluing them down. There it is. You had
The question was, what went wrong with the other one?
I had this one and I was going good. You see, here's where my piece was, got it in there, going along. Got it more or less perpendicular to, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just gives you something to work with. Because trust me, on that first one, I had one side like way off over the other. I mean, it was way out. But I had the pieces big enough that I had wood. Okay, next one. Same thing I just showed you. Cut it out, laid it down. You'll see this one's sticking way out. A little bit here, nothing over here. So you just massage it out. Now you've got all your pieces at about the same, give or take a little bit. We're not building a nuke here. Okay. Glue them down, put your next row on. Okay. Same thing. Look, no pieces. Well, you can see now I'm 1, 2, 3 rows up. And all I'm doing is just keep stacking them up. Keep going. I'm 3 rows up. Now you'll wonder why I put black on a couple of them. Because they cracked all the heck. So I put some black on them to hold them together. Okay. That's how the sides look. Okay. You can kind of see they're kind of the distance here and the distance here are all kind of looking pretty uniform. For some reason that one's sticking out quite a ways, but it's pretty close. Okay. Same thing. Now we're up 1, 2, 3, 4. We're up 5 rows. Now this may have been, this was the top row. You can see here, I walked in. I stepped it back inside. You can see how I stepped in a little bit. That's the top. Okay. There it is. All put together. Was fine. Everything's going good. I took a piece. I had a bottom. I put a piece on here and just shoved it up against it. So I had a little bit more stability. I'm turning it right on down. You can see it's starting to look pretty good. Everything's going good. Now I'm to the good part. The inside. And you can see I've already got quite a bit. I'm getting it down on the inside. We're still going good. Okay. Still getting there. I had to sneeze or cough or whatever you wanted to, and I put it through the side. I put it back together the best I could, put it back on the machine, started it again, and I'll be darned if I didn't do exactly the same thing. And that's what happened to it. I mean, I coughed and I put that tool, it went 50 dozen different directions. Some of it I never did find. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But if you kind of look at it and think if it all held together, And I wish I had taken pictures of the other two because it had walnut and pistachio and some light. I used quite a bit of dark in the walnut and mixed the ash and the alligator in with it. That's why the lady got, I mean, she took both of them. They look nice, but they were only, it was only like about that tall. I think it was only like 4 rows high. Maybe that's why I shouldn't have done with this one, but they look nice.
When you did the inside, what if you halved the circles, the spheres themselves, if you halved them so that you're only working with a smaller amount, you wouldn't have as much to turn down. So
I guess I don't,
you've got your circle,
yeah.
okay, and you're gonna cut your ring in half, so you're only half a ring, and then you got less to turn out for your center.
I looked at that. And it's just like on the very first one I did. If I had done that, I would have blew the side out because I wouldn't have had wood. We're working with all different diameters. So when you're putting it together, what I was trying to do was to kind of keep, how do I explain this? When I was doing this and lining them up, I was trying to make the outer diameter of my circle approximately the center of my piece. That way I had wood. Now, I guess if you got real good at it, yeah, and cut part of it off, you could probably get by with it, but you'd have to be real close on your pattern, I guess. Something to think about. I mean, the first two, like I said, the first two went slick. I mean, they went clean, but I had good wood. And when I came to this one, I didn't have good pieces. That was my biggest thing. I think it would have worked if I hadn't had a coughing spell and shoved the tool through the side.
Gene, what was your tool of choice for inside outside turning?
It's a carbon bit. Okay. Most people, and I've been told this, what I use is a piece of junk, but sorry. I think one club member one time, you use what you're comfortable with. I think that's what he said or something of that nature. Let's see if I can draw the tip. The tip is shaped like that, and it's carbon, and this is your cutting edge, and it's round. Yeah, it's a cup. Where a lot of your, we were talking about it earlier, your pieces are flat.
You said carbide, you mean carbide.
And it's a carbide tip, and you just sharpen this edge. This one is this part here is the sharp part. Like I said, I apologize for, I just didn't feel like doing it, and I didn't have the wood, and I didn't have the time.
What you showed gave us the idea.
You got the idea, and like
You
I
have
said,
no reason to apologize, Gene.
well, come on, guys, questions?
Are there any questions? Any more questions?
Gene, you have absolutely nothing to apologize for,
Well,
because that bucket of pieces that you start off with to form something great is generally what I can end up with when I start with something solid. Yeah.
well, I will admit, I'm kind of halfway, like I said, but I really wanted that bigger bowl. But I mean, when I picked up that piece of wood, there was, the quail had roosted on it. There was worms under it. There was spider. There was everything. I mean, it was nasty. God, it was nasty. And when I got down inside of it, I mean, there's colors going through it. There's one spot on it that looks like it's got a happy face. And the R&D department said, you can't cut that up. So anyway,
Well, I think we should give him a round of applause for what he's done.
thank you guys.
If nothing else.